There's a lot of folks that talk about AI, a much smaller subset that do it, and then a smaller subset that do it well. And this is not the Terminator scenario. It's the Iron Man suit that helps advisors do more with less.
Hello and welcome to WPTV. My name is David Katai, Senior Editor at Wealth Professional. Following our Wealth Professional Award show in June, we've been profiling some select excellence awardees across different categories, showcasing the service offerings and hard work that earned them their spot at the award ceremony. Today, we're joined by John Connell, the founder and CEO of Focal AI. His firm was named an Excellence Awardee for Wealth Tech Service Provider of the Year. John, welcome to WPTV.
Thanks for having me, David. Excited for the conversation here.
As are we. So let's start by giving our viewers a little bit of a grounding. Tell me a bit about Focal AI and what you provide for advisors.
Absolutely. Focal AI is the Agentic AI platform purpose-built for financial advisors. So we automate the entire client meeting lifecycle from, think AI meeting preparation, note-taking, CRM updates. We will personalize follow-up emails, financial planning workflows, and data entry across an advisor's tech stack. And really what makes us different is that we don't just summarize meetings. We're also taking action with purpose-built AI agents that eliminate the admin work that consumes an advisor's or an assistant's day, so they can basically spend more time building client relationships and growing the business.
Thank you for the overview. And going into the award, why do you think you were named an Excellence Awardee?
Yeah, it's an honor to have been named on this end. We are today delivering measurable results for advisors across firms like Manulife, Financial Horizons, IPC, many others. Advisors are saving 10, 15 hours a week, we hear. Today, we're building the intelligence layer that connects an advisor's entire tech stack, helping them work faster across the tools that they already use instead of trying to replace them. And we're also the first platform to combine workflow automation with science-backed behavioral coaching. So we're improving both advisor efficiency as well as advisor performance, improving areas like prospecting, AUM conversion, identifying missed opportunities, for example. And ultimately, the credit, though, really belongs to our customers. They took a chance on us. And over the last couple of years, we've been able to prove that the impact is quite real.
Mm-hmm. So, John, there have been a lot of AI platforms and other tools. Maybe they'll put an AI label on it that say, we're going to save you time, Mr. or Mrs. Advisor. Talk to me about what your platform can actually do to save advisors time that some of these other platforms can't.
Great question. Yeah, there's a lot of folks that talk about AI, a much smaller subset that do it, and then a smaller subset that do it well. Most AI tools today will stop at producing a meeting summary. What Focal AI does is it takes the next step and then actually completes the work. So after a client meeting, our AI will update the CRM. It will draft personalized follow-up emails. It will fill hundreds of planning and KYC fields. It will prepare the next meeting. It will automate data entry across different tools. If you use Conquest, Salesforce, Equisoft, Maximizer, you name it. That's really the difference between conversational AI and agentic AI. One will tell you what happened. The other is actionable. It gets work done. For many advisors, what used to require well over an hour of post-meeting admin can now be reduced to just a few minutes. And over the course of a week, as you can probably imagine, that adds up quite quickly. We see, entire days return to client-facing work, which is really exciting to hear from our clients.
This leads into a bit of a macro question around AI, because we've seen a lot of firms, exploring AI, transforming with AI, and some of them are doing it to great success, while others are finding a lot of frustration and difficulty. Why do you think we're seeing that kind of split in AI adoption?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And you probably saw the recent BCG report too. Something like 60% of enterprises are actually failing at implementing AI. And I think that's the key, right? The biggest difference, it isn't necessarily the technology itself. It's the implementation strategy. It's how you go about deploying AI. The firms seeing the best results have executive sponsorship. They have clear governance. They have a long-term AI strategy. They're actually deploying AI as a firm-wide capability instead of asking every advisor to figure it out individually. The firms that will struggle are the ones that end up with dozens of disconnected tools, inconsistent adoption, right? There's no process internally for things like when or should you be syncing your summaries to a CRM. And then there's no measurable business impact. The reality with AI is that it compounds quite quickly in terms of the ROI. So every workflow that you automate, right, it creates more capacity. The firms that are starting already are now starting to build that momentum, and that's really competitive advantage that becomes increasingly difficult to catch if you're not already thinking about deploying AI. Because the reality is that to be able to do agentic AI well, you need data and you need to be operating at scale to really see the value from automating these workflows, offloading, whether it's the onboarding, the KYC, the prospecting, the sort of long tail of things that folks do day in and day out. And you have to have that data layer in place. Data is the oil that powers the machine, as Andrew Ng says, to ultimately unlock the 80% plus value that is in the agentic realm versus the 10 to 20%, right, that a point solution tool can come in and unlock for you out of the gate. So it does take a very focused address by the folks at the top to ensure that the firm is really driving in the right direction.
You hit on something with the word focused, and maybe even can use the word specialized, where a lot of general purpose AI promises to do everything for everybody. And I guess my question is, how much does that promise maybe set up firm leaders and business leaders for struggles with their AI, whereas a more specialized tool can actually offer them something that is meaningful, actionable, and really works to their workflows?
Yeah, no, I think there's actually two pieces here to color in on. One is what a firm can do to see success, and then some of the failure objectives there that unfortunately realize if you don't do it well. The other is how you're thinking about, purpose-built AI versus general AI, right? From the first piece around success, right? If you understand what measurable problem that you're trying to solve, that is absolutely key. You have to be able to identify what are the high-value workflows, how do you make sure data is accessible, defining success metrics up front, redesigning advisor workflows around AI instead of just simply layering AI on top of an existing process. One of the big mistakes that we've seen a couple of enterprises make is actually assuming that they should build everything internally. And unless an AI team is internal with intelligent robotic process automation, and it's a core competency of the business, firms are oftentimes better served partnering in those scenarios with companies that have already solved these types of problems, so that they can then integrate, directly into existing environments. Failure in those scenarios usually comes down to a couple of things. One is that agentic AI is a very different beast, right? If you're adopting generic AI that was not built for financial advice, that's sort of one big pit. The other is allowing unmanaged AI usage without governance. So the goal with AI really should be deploying it safely and consistently. Now, when you look at the different options in market, right? You're a management team evaluating how should we be deploying AI, and you're seeing the ChatGPTs, the Claudes, the Copilots as the safe bet, right? Incredible technology platforms. A lot of respect for the folks over that direction. I know a good portion of the Copilot team from past life, and they are building general purpose engines, right? These are not advisor operating systems. So financial advisors, today they're working within highly specialized workflows. That includes CRMs, financial planning software. They've got compliance requirements, right? KYC is a process, onboarding is a process, retirement documents, how do you manage, form filling on different custodian portals. And then some firms have, processes that are pretty unique to how they just get things done internally. Generic AI will not understand those workflows or integrate with those tools that help you get those workflows done. With purpose-built AI, though, that effectively combines the power of a lot of these modern foundation models with deep industry context, along with integrations, compliance architecture, and in our case, the specialized behavioral coaching. And that's really what transforms AI from something like a chatbot or general purpose into something that advisors can actually build their business around, because it understands the context, the nuance, right, of the client-advisor relationship, whether that's the terminology it picks up or setting you up for the agentic future.
Thank you. A comprehensive overview and really quite a fascinating contrast between the specialized and the general. You mentioned, though, compliance requirements, and this is a deeply regulated industry. So how do you stay compliant, and how do you ensure that your advisors who are using your platform stay compliant while they remain on the cutting edge of technology?
Definitely a great question. Compliance is absolutely foundational for us. We treat compliance as a design principle. It's not an afterthought for the business. Today, Focal is SOC 2 Type 2 certified. We are built on Microsoft Azure, supporting Canadian data residency. Then we use stateless AI models that don't retain or train on client information. And importantly, Focal AI uses visible meeting bots and an audible announcement that supports implied consent under PIPEDA, whereas botless providers put advisors at risk of legal exposure, potential fines up to 100K CAD, because of the risk of transcribing personally identifiable information without getting explicit consent of client. Always get that explicit consent, right? So we also, on our side, keep advisors in control through human-in-the-loop workflows. So AI assists professionals rather than replaces their judgment, right? There's always a review process before data, gets tagged in specific places. In regulated industries, what we've seen, and this I think counts beyond just financial services, innovation really only succeeds if clients and firms trust the platform. So that's why security and compliance, for us anyway, are foundational to just everything that we do as a business.
To maybe put the question incredibly explicitly, too much, maybe getting right down to brass tacks, why should advisors consider adding an AI tool like yours?
Yeah, ultimately, it comes down to keeping up with the Joneses, running the race, being competitive, right? Economics of advice are changing. So advisors today, they spend a surprising amount of time during their week on admin instead of meeting with clients. And if AI can give you that time back, it's really hard to hear, your peers say, I'm saving 5 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours a week, and ignoring it, right? What we're seeing is that the firms that are adopting AI today, they are creating more capacity. They are delivering better client experiences, right? You can go deeper with your client if you're not trying to meticulously take notes on the side. They're growing without needing to add proportional headcount, right? If you can now serve 130 versus 100 clients, that's a pretty big uplift for a business. And we've seen that happen numerous times now. I also think that AI is incredibly empowering for firms of every size, right? If you are an independent advisor, you can now operate with the sophistication and the efficiency of a much larger organization. You can even get your edge on the behavioral coaching piece, right? I mean, if the last competitive moat really is the human advisor and the brand that they present, the trust factor with their clients, you want to make sure that you are laser focused, you're able to go as deep as possible with those clients and really ultimately outperform your peers on that relationship basis, right? And at scale, if you're an enterprise firm today, one of these large wealth organizations, you now have the option to unlock the power of agentic AI. And that's where the real ROI exists beyond generative AI, is when you can start going after specific workflows across the tools that you already use and start offloading the specific tasks, right? The data that has to get entered or rekeyed across different systems, or, manual clicks that these assistants, paraplanners, CSPs, CSRs, are basically manual operating across these different tools.
You raise a really interesting thought for me, and this is around, we've seen the industry shift more and more up the economic chain. Basically, the answer to the economic issues or the margin compression in this industry has been to serve a smaller cohort of wealthier clients. Does the time savings and economies that come from the use of AI tools like this reopen the sort of the mass affluent and mass market segments for advisors again? Is this going to be, could this necessitate or precipitate a shift back towards maybe wider access to financial advisors?
The democratization of access to financial advisory and just advice, broadly speaking, I think is one of the beautiful things that comes from where it is that AI is evolving right now. And for me personally, that was massive motivation to kick Focal into high gear. If you look at how people invest on the consumer side today, there's a lot of poor decision making that's happening. There's a lot of great, scenarios that land for folks as well. But the reality is not enough people have access to the perspective of those with the knowledge to help them make better decisions. So I think AI for the classic consumer is absolutely going to be sort of a pass-through success story where advisors are now more informed around the different topics that they can engage on with their clients. But then the clients, because advisors can now serve 20-30% more clients, that brings in an entirely new cohort of folks who previously just were less aware or making less informed decisions, and that can end up in retirement 5 years earlier than maybe you would have otherwise, or set your family up in a way that you have long-term sustainable capital ready and available for the next generation. It ultimately is a benefit to society at large when the consumers have more access to those financial advisors that can deliver that quality advice. So I do think that there's spillover effect here, and it will be a generational impact that this technology makes on the industry.
We talked about generational, and I like that word given the promises of AI, but you also mentioned ROI. And I'm curious about, especially in the near-term adoption of a platform like yours, what are the kind of ROI expectations that advisors and firms should set when they start using a tool like Focal AI?
We think about ROI in three ways. First is time. So we're hearing that advisors save 10, 15 hours every week, and that's just with the core Focal AI platform out of the box. This doesn't account for the additional time savings when we work with enterprises to deploy agentic automations for other internal workflows, saving even more time. The second is around capacity. So that is reclaiming time, which allows firms to serve more clients without hiring additional staff. Third is the growth factor. So think better preparation, more consistent follow-up, behavioral coaching helps advisors have higher quality conversations that can improve client engagement and business outcomes, right? So ultimately, the biggest return isn't just the hours saved. It's really what do advisors choose to do with those hours.
And a final question, when advisors think of Focal, what do you hope they think of? What do you hope the word association is in advisors' minds now going forward?
I hope they think of Focal as the platform that gave them their time back and helped them become a better advisor, right? Fulfillment, realization, transcendence. We often hear customers say that they can't imagine running their practice without it, that it's, for me anyway, incredibly rewarding to hear that. And at the end of the day, we don't believe AI replaces relationships, right? It ultimately strengthens them. So this is not the Terminator scenario. It's the Iron Man suit that helps advisors do more with less. And if we can eliminate some of the admin burden so that those advisors can spend more time listening, more time advising, and really connecting deeply with their clients, that's when I know that we've done our job.
John, I think that's a beautiful note to end on. And so with that, I can just say thank you so much for taking the time and for sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you for having me, David. It's an honor to have been selected as one of the Excellence awardees for the Service Provider of the Year here with WP, and looking forward to the next one.
So are we. And thank you to all of our viewers for WPTV. I've been David Kitai. Have a great rest of your day.